the Pacific coast of Costa Rica. A biodiversity hotspot that hosts nearly 5,000 species of marine life.
It's just beautiful, like an aquarium, but that has no limits, no walls.
But here in this undersea aquarium, the ocean's top predators are at risk, threatened by loss of habitat and overfishing.
We exposed this situation in 2004. We had to take the Costa Rican government to court.
Now, Costa Rica's marine defenders are teaming up to create a safer home for these endangered animals and to save them from extinction. The southwestern tip of Costa Rica is one of the most biologically diverse places on Earth. It's a primitive dreamland of rainforests, pristine beaches, and stunning natural wonders like Golfo Dulce, one of just 4 tropical fjords in the world. Costa Rica is nestled between the Pacific Ocean and the Caribbean Sea, in the heart of Central America. It's the 3rd smallest country in Central America, yet its international boundaries extend over a swath of ocean far larger than California. Golfo Dulce is the world's 10th deepest gulf, reaching depths of more than 650 feet. It's one of the least explored underwater environments in Costa Rica. But for local marine biologists like Andres Lopez, one thing is known. Golfo Dulce is essential to the survival of the Eastern Pacific's hammerhead shark.
Estamos en Golfito, una importante comunidad pesquera del Pacífico Sur, donde trabajamos con el tiburón martillo, donde hemos identificado una importante área de crianza para esta amenazada especie. Los tiburones martillo nacen muy cerca de este sitio y estamos aquí precisamente para eso, para buscar a los más pequeños que esperamos encontrarlos aquí hoy.
The purpose of this research trip is to learn how sharks use this gulf throughout their lifetime, when they're in Golfo Dulce, and how long they stay. Today, Lopez recruits the help of traditional fishermen to locate and catch young sharks. These men are part of a local community committed to protecting the sharks of Golfo Dulce through sustainable fishing practices. Shark pups are not yet skilled hunters. They feed on small bottom dwellers like sardine and mackerel. The fishermen will use both to bait the small sharks that prowl these waters in search of an easy meal. Lopez hopes to catch juveniles that are strong and healthy enough to endure the quick surgery required to insert an acoustic tag into their lower side.
Básicamente, lo que nos dicen las marcas es la posición, el número de tiburón marcado, en algunos casos la temperatura, y también nos dice la hora y el día de cuando los tiburones visitaron en esta zona.
A network of acoustic receivers installed over a wide swath of Costa Rican waters can pick up the movement of any tagged shark that comes within half a mile. These receivers reveal clues in the life of the hammerheads, from how they spend their early years in the Gulf to where they migrate as adults, and what happens when they leave their safe haven in Golfo Dulce in search of larger prey. In Golfo Dulce alone, receivers have recorded the presence of sharks on more than 10,000 separate occasions. At the moment, there is a healthy number of sharks in the Gulf. Lopez wants to ensure it stays that way. He will use the data collected here to lobby for the creation of a hammerhead shark sanctuary at Golfo Dulce.
Estamos aquí porque estamos buscando tiburones de más de 1 metro de talla, o sea que ya pasaron su primer año de vida. Entonces estamos arriesgándola también. Puede ser que no capturemos, pero puede ser que capturemos los que necesitamos.
Hours pass with no luck. Then the fishermen finally make a catch. It's a small blacktip, one of 10 species of shark found in Golfo Dulce. The crew rushes to prepare the tagging. The shark should only be out of the water for a maximum of 2 minutes. Fishermen carefully remove the hook, but working on this small shark is no easy task. What it lacks in size, it makes up for in strength. Lopez measures the shark. This one is 28 inches, too small for an internal acoustic tag. He checks the sex of the pup. It's a female. Then fits her upper fin with a plastic tag and applies a medicinal spray to heal the cut. She's now assigned a number to be entered in the Golfo Dulce shark census. If she's recaught in the future, Lopez will be able to monitor her growth and hopefully insert an acoustic tag to track her exact movements as she grows older. Where there's one pup, there are often many more. Unfortunately for the team, though, the swell has changed and is now bringing less sediment into these waters. With fewer nutrients to feed on, the small prey fish leave the area. And so do the shark pups. The crew will need to return tomorrow before dawn to try their luck again. Just after sunrise, Lopez and his crew return to the fishing spot to continue their search for hammerhead sharks.
Estamos en Punta Piedra, uno de los lugares que visitamos ayer, pero en otro momento del día estamos esperando que el cambio de marea nos ayude a encontrar los tiburones martillo. Vamos a ver si hoy tenemos suerte y podemos lograrlo.
The fishermen helping Lopez know the area well. Their expertise is vital to the success of the research. They pick a prime spot to anchor the boat. And in no time, the shark pups start to bite.
Perdón. Perdón, gato. Uy. ¿Qué es? ¿Picudos o puta negra?
It's a sharp nose. Unlike blacktips and hammerheads, sharp-nosed sharks are permanent residents of Golfo Dulce.
Macho. 53, 43. Es un juvenil. Es un tiburón picudo juvenil. No podemos poner una marca acústica porque no tiene la talla suficiente y le daríamos un daño interno.
Lopez needs to move quickly with this little sharp nose because the fishermen have caught another shark.
Esa es una cornudita.
Madre, la cornuda, entonces. Ahí está la cornuda. Agarre la cornuda, dale la prioridad, téngalo allá adentro. Aquí hay un martillo.
Cómo, ya le dije cómo. Ah, ¿y ahí? Ah, mae. ¿Qué quiere, que se la rime?
Listo. Gracias, bro. Usted la agarra, póngala ahí. Pongámosla adentro. Hay un martillo aquí.
The shark's small size can only mean one thing. This hammerhead is a newborn, the first hammerhead pup to be tagged this season.
Estos son los primeros martillos que vienen a Golfo Dulce. Son los primeros. Es una hembra. Inclusive, vea, Donald, vea, aquí está la apertura del ombligo. Esto es lo que unía a este tiburón a su mamá por medio de esta hendidura es que venía la leche materna. La leche materna, los fluidos. Ya estamos medio 52, aquí estamos. La marca es la 436. Necesitamos un martillo más grande para marcar la sangre.
The newborn hammerhead will spend the next 3 years in the Gulf until she's large enough to migrate to the oceanic islands of the eastern Pacific. She's just 1.5 feet long now, but the pup will nearly quadruple in size by the time she becomes an adult. 15 years will pass before she reaches sexual maturity. At this point, she will journey back through the open waters of the eastern Pacific, return to her birthplace in Golfo Dulce, and give birth to her own pups. Back on the boat, the fishermen have caught another newborn hammerhead. This one appears to be just a few weeks old. It's only March. Pregnant females aren't expected to pup here until May. The warmer waters caused by El Niño may have hastened the breeding season. The hammerhead juveniles keep biting. It seems the nursery is bursting with life. It's good news for shark conservationists in Costa Rica and a reminder of the value of the responsible fishing practiced here in Golfo Dulce. As well as the hammerheads, this healthy ecosystem is home to at least 7 different species of rays. Like the golden cownose ray. This large school has come to Golfo Dulce to feed on mollusks that grow in the nutrient-rich sediment washing in from a nearby river. The ray's flexible fins stir up the seabed to reveal oysters and shellfish, which the rays crush with a dozen rows of powerful grinding teeth. They're strong swimmers, able to cover long distances, and migrate in the winter in schools that can number in the thousands. Long-tailed stingrays also scour the Gulf floor in search of mollusks and crustaceans. At the base of the stingray's tail is a powerful and potentially deadly weapon. It's a serrated barb, which, when thrust into flesh, secretes an excruciating venom that dissolves in the wound and is absorbed in the bloodstream. The ray uses its stinger to defend itself from sharks and other predators. This ray is missing part of its tail, possibly bitten off by a shark or caught in a crevice in the reef. Without the end of its tail, the ray has no stinger and will need to be vigilant about predators. Hammerheads prey on rays, and based on the hammerhead pups caught by Lopez and his team, there are plenty of adult female sharks in these waters.
Muy contentos de haber venido hoy acá. La verdad es que la selección del lugar fue idóneo. Los 2 tiburones martillo que marcamos miden menos de medio metro. Esa es la talla de madurez. Me atrevería a decir que fueron paridos hace 1 o 2 semanas. Esos son los primeros martillos que vienen este año y que tenemos que garantizar que sean aquí, que continúen aquí y proteger ese lugar.
Golfo Dulce is just one of several critical shark habitats spread along 630 miles of Costa Rica's western coast. Costa Rican waters are home to nearly 7,000 species of wildlife. Yet just 1% of Costa Rican seas are protected as marine sanctuaries.
Bueno, el tiburón martillo es quizá el tiburón más emblemático que tenemos en aguas costarricenses. ¿Por qué es importante protegerlo? porque si protegemos al tiburón martillo, protegemos a diferentes especies que están debajo de él. El tiburón martillo es una especie sombrilla, es un depredador tope, son los que se encargan de regular las cadenas tróficas, son los que se encargan de mantener el balance, el equilibrio que tanto hemos deteriorado como nosotros como humanos en estas últimas décadas. Entonces, realmente la misión que tenemos es una misión dura, es una misión difícil, pero no es inalcanzable.
Apex predators like the hammerhead are an essential part of the ocean ecosystem. Big eaters, they control the population of other species. But global shark populations are declining at a rate of about 100 million sharks each year. A drastic decline in the number of large sharks can have a ripple effect, allowing prey populations to bloat and upsetting the delicate balance of the oceanic food web. Today, more than 1/4 of the world's shark species are at risk of extinction. In Costa Rica, the main threat to sharks is the lack of protection outside of marine sanctuaries. When a shark leaves the safe waters of Golfo Dulce, it must travel through 300 miles of unprotected ocean before it reaches the closest marine reserve. On this stretch of coastline, sharks find much-needed sanctuary. The Pacific coast of Costa Rica hosts a wide range of habitats, from mangrove forests and rocky coastlines to shimmering lagoons and sandy beaches. Like Golfo Dulce, these coastal environments act as nurseries, providing protection for newborn fish that will eventually grow and make their way out to coral reefs and the open ocean beyond. They also offer seasonal refuge for migratory animals. Sharks, turtles, and dolphins stop here before embarking on marathon journeys across one of the world's largest marine corridors, the eastern tropical Pacific seascape. It's comprised of the waters, coasts, and islands off the shores of Costa Rica, Panama, Colombia, and Ecuador, and covers nearly 770,000 square miles, an area nearly 3 times the size of Texas. The eastern tropical Pacific seascape is one of the world's richest marine habitats and is heavily traveled by large migratory sea creatures.
En el mar tenemos una gran cordillera que se llama la cordillera Cocos. Es una autopista que tiene un punto de destino en la isla del Coco. Esa cadena de montañas o cordillera submarina es un corredor que utilizan los tiburones martillo, las tortugas verdes, los tiburones ballena.
300 miles offshore is Cocos Island. It's Costa Rica's only oceanic island and has the highest concentration of adult hammerhead sharks in the country. The renowned oceanographer Jacques Cousteau called Cocos the world's most beautiful island. It covers just 5 square miles, yet it hosts 40% of Costa Rica's endemic species. Sharks born at Golfo Dulce migrate out to Cocos Island when they're 3 years old. They're joined by migratory hammerheads from the Galapagos Islands, Coiba Island off the coast of Panama, and Colombia's Malpelo Island.
Los tiburones martillo son tiburones muy migratorios. Son tiburones que no son solamente costarricenses. Nacen en Costa Rica, pero realmente se mueven por todo el corredor y el corredor tiene aguas de Colombia, tiene aguas de Ecuador, tiene aguas de Panamá y por ende los tiburones martillo no son tiburones solamente de los costarricenses, son tiburones del mundo.
The marine protected area that surrounds the island extends for nearly 4,000 square miles, 5 times larger than the actual national park. But Cocos Island faces a serious threat. Overfishing along the Costa Rican coast has decimated fish stocks. With coastal fisheries all but wiped out, fishermen move closer to Cocos Island. They flout the ban on fishing and take everything they can. Felipe Chacon is a dive master and submarine pilot, with more than 1,200 dives at Cocos Island. He's witnessed a sharp decline in the number of large animal encounters here.
I started working in Cocos Island in late 2010, and I saw so many species of sharks. I saw huge aggregation of hammerheads. Sometimes in a dive, more than 200 hammerheads swimming very, very close to you. And that was, for me, one of the most impressive and amazing experiences of my life. Unfortunately, the more I work in Cocos Island, as years started to pass, very rapidly, I saw a decline on the amount of sharks that we would see.
This decline is the direct result of overfishing. There are more long-liner boats in the waters off Costa Rica than anywhere else in the eastern tropical Pacific. Most of these boats travel to Cocos Island in search of tuna and mahi-mahi, but long lines catch anything that takes the bait on their hooks. Once caught on a long line, sharks have little chance of survival. Many species, such as the hammerhead, must swim constantly to force oxygenated water over their gills. Fishing lines and nets trap the sharks. Unable to move, they slowly suffocate. Sharks become what's known as incidental catch or bycatch. But the capture of endangered sharks is not always accidental.
Before 1982, Costa Rica had strictly a coastal fishery. And back in those years, the politicians would say, Costa Rica has such a big economic zone. We need to exploit those resources. So in 1982, Costa Rica invited a mission from Taiwan to teach the Costa Ricans how to exploit all those ocean resources that we were not, actually exploiting. However, when the Taiwanese officers saw the wealth of marine fauna and all the sharks in Costa Rica, they removed their diplomatic technician hats and they put their business hats on. And they turned into shark finners and they established the shark finning industry in Costa Rica.
Shark finning is a reckless and brutal fishing practice. Fishermen cut off the fins and discard the rest of the shark. Each year, thousands of fins taken from the eastern tropical Pacific are exported to Asia for shark fin soup.
By 1998, Costa Rica already had the biggest long-line fleet of Latin America. And in fact, we became the hub of the shark fin industry operating in the eastern tropical Pacific.
In 2003, Arouse and his conservation group, Pretoma, exposed a Taiwanese ship attempting to illegally land 30 tons of shark fins on the Costa Rican shore. 30 tons of shark fins amounts to the deaths of 30,000 sharks. This outrage was just the beginning of a 7-year campaign to halt the finning industry in Costa Rica. Pretoma took the Costa Rican government to court 3 times, forcing lawmakers to crack down on shark finning. Targeting sharks for their fins is now illegal throughout Costa Rica, including at Cocos Island. But it's an uphill battle. The global black market in seafood is worth more than $20 billion. The fishing town of Punta Arenas continues to be a hub for the shark finning industry. Although sharks are protected, fishermen are allowed to bring them to the docks if they are considered to be an accidental catch.
When you work in Punta Arenas, you don't even need to open your eyes. Just inhale the air, and then you can smell the drying fins on the roof of these private docks.
Nearly all of Costa Rica's shark catches are brought to this town. where fins are left to dry out beneath false ceilings to hide the finning operations. It's believed at least 3 boats full of shark fins enter the ports of Punta Arenas each week.
En la isla del Coco, que tenemos a los tiburones martillo adultos, hay un letrero que te recibe cuando llegas al parque y es una pregunta: ¿cuántos tiburones martillo tenemos? La respuesta es un poco triste, pero es muy real. Cada día tenemos menos.
Scalloped hammerhead fins can fetch up to $50 a pound for exporters. But sharks are far more valuable alive than dead. Throughout its lifetime, a single shark can generate more than $1.5 million for the tourism economy. White-tip sharks, in particular, are big earners for the diving industry.
En Costa Rica tenemos la isla del Coco, posiblemente con la población más pristina y más natural del mundo. Alfombras de tiburones, cientos de tiburones que se agregan en las noches a alimentarse. Prácticamente es un buceo que es único en la isla del Coco.
Dormant during the day, white-tip reef sharks become active and determined hunters at night. Moving over the reef in loosely organized packs, the sharks poke their blunt heads into each crack and crevice in the coral in search of prey. During these frantic hunts, white-tip reef sharks break off pieces of coral, often tearing their skin and fins. In Cocos Island, this furious spectacle has played out every night for thousands of years. But for how much longer remains to be seen? It doesn't take too long to bring a marine ecosystem to the brink of collapse. Catalina Islands, a chain of volcanic undersea mountains 20 miles off the northwest coast of Costa Rica, is a grim reminder of the vulnerability of underwater habitats.
Right now we're in Catalina Islands, and they are well known for their cleaning stations for manta rays. It was one of the main reasons why people come here. And sadly, I've been seeing a decline on the amount of fish that you see on the water, on the manta ray sightings.
Felipe knows the area well. He started his diving career here in 2008. And since then, he's noticed a steady drop in the mass of all species that inhabit these dive sites. The warm, nutrient-rich waters that surround the islands are typically an ideal habitat for rays and sharks. But today, there are few to be seen. In these unprotected waters, Catalina sharks and rays are in decline, driven away by too many divers and decimated by overfishing. For a first-time visitor, the decline might not be noticeable. This dive spot, known as Dirty Rock, teems with fish. Spot-tailed grunts swim in tightly packed schools. Spadefish drift with the current. A male sergeant major valiantly tries to protect his nest from hungry intruders. But his fertilized eggs, a bright shade of purple, catch the eye of dozens of barberfish and king angelfish. The sergeant major is outnumbered. But not to be intimidated, the sergeant major reclaims his space. Life on these rocky outcrops is a series of battles. Higher up the water column, spotted eagle rays soar over the seascape. A mobula ray breaks the surface. It may be hard to believe, but this dive spot is a mere shadow of what it was 30 years ago.
The beginning of my diving history is on the area of Catalina Islands. And when I started diving there, everything I would see was a complete surprise. You can say that right now, you're seeing less and less and less in Catalina Islands. It's an area that has no protection and no management whatsoever. And you can see the consequences of this under the water.
300 miles south of Catalina is Caño Island, a shining example of marine conservation in Costa Rica.
The moment that you are arriving to this island is very impressive. I felt like I was arriving to a place that somebody just cut a square out of the Amazonian rainforest and put it in the center of the ocean. It's like, wow. And because it's a reserve, it hasn't been affected by the hand of man.
Accessible only by a one-hour boat ride from the coast, the island was designated a biological reserve in 1978. Caño and its waters are carefully protected. This is a no-take zone, meaning fishing is strictly banned. Scuba diving is also regulated. Just 10 divers are allowed at a dive spot at any given time. The ultimate sign of success of these conservation measures is an explosion of life. Today, Caño Island bursts with more than 200 species of fish. Nearly 1/5 of all fish in this region of the Pacific Ocean can be found here. This underwater Amazon hosts awe-inspiring creatures, like the sea kelp. They may look like jellyfish, but kelp have internal organs and structures that jellies don't have, such as a heart and a dorsal nervous system. In this way, they're more closely related to humans and may represent the earliest ancestors of all animals with a backbone. Each kelp moves by contracting and pumping water through its glassy body. As the water comes in, the kelp's internal feeding filters collect the phytoplankton on which it feeds. It is a marvelously efficient system. Locomotion and mealtime are combined in one fell swoop. The kelps and their ancestors have floated on the currents for hundreds of millions of years. But they aren't the only ancient creatures in the waters off Caño Island. Fossil evidence of white-tip reef sharks dates back more than 40 million years. They've had enough time to develop some predictable habits. During the day, they rest inside the crevices and nooks of the coral reef, or sleep out in the open on the sandy bottom. When they find a good resting spot, they'll often return to it every day for several years. Rest breaks provide the perfect chance for a cleaning. The shark opens its mouth and flares its gills, an invitation for goby fish to rid it of parasites, old food particles, and dead skin. The volcanic rocks that built Caño Island offer protection, not just to the white-tipped reef shark, but to the corals that make up the reef. Small fish spend their entire lives on the reef, hiding from predators among the corals. Each creature is part of Caño Island's long and complex food chain. Reef manta rays come here to be cleaned by great swarms of snappers and butterfly fish. The pristine dive spots of Caño Island are also known for a sight even more impressive than the giant manta ray. Massive schools of fish swimming together in one giant swirling mass.
Having the opportunity to dive Caño, I was not expecting to see a lot, but it was like an underwater aquarium that has no limits, no walls. Crystal clear visibility, warm water, and beyond that, the schools of grunts, the schools of snappers would cloud the sky when you were diving, and it's like, wow, and you can swim through them, through the fish bowl, be face to face with hundreds, if not thousands of fish.
The fish school operates as a single unit. This extraordinary coordination relies on signals passed through the school from one fish to the next. These signals direct traffic, indicate the presence of food, and sound the alarm in the face of predators. Predators, like this school of barracudas, they are among the most dangerous and unpredictable fish in the sea. Barracuda have powerful jaws and razor-sharp teeth, earning them the nickname the tigers of the sea. Though these tigers can hunt in packs, lunging quickly at prey, which is forced into their jaws, then shredded and devoured. Fork-tailed fins help barracudas hit speeds of 25 miles an hour. When resting, they float almost motionless, yet are still alert to the slightest danger. Younger barracudas travel in schools as a means of protection from predators. Sharks, dolphins, and other barracudas are among the animals brave enough to tackle these fearsome hunters. Beyond the massive schools, Caño Island is rich in coral-building organisms. Five coral platforms surround the island. Each supports more than a dozen species, such as brain coral, sea fans, and head coral. Caño Island has the largest variety of coral species on Costa Rica's Pacific coast. The fishing and diving regulations imposed in the marine park have helped the corals to thrive. But they can't protect the reef from an even more destructive threat: rising global temperatures. When water is too warm, corals expel the algae that live in its tissues and give the reef its vibrant colors. The coral turns white in a process known as coral bleaching. Warmer water triggered by El Niño in 2015 and 2016 damaged the reefs here to a degree not seen since the 1980s. Marine biologists Cristina Sanchez and David Palacios are in Caño Island to inspect the health of the coral after months of worryingly high temperatures. researchers explore an area off limits to other divers. They suspect that lower currents on this side of the island may have increased the likelihood of higher water temperatures. It appears that Christina and David were right. The amount of coral bleaching is astonishing. They run transects and use a grid at regular intervals to measure how much of the reef is covered with live stony coral and how much is covered by sponges, algae, and other organisms. Stony corals are reef builders. A low percentage of hard coral is a sign that the reef is under stress. They also take photographs to determine if bleaching levels have changed since their last research dive 5 months prior. Before they head back up to the boat, Christina and David spot another possible menace to the reef's health: a crown of thorns starfish. On a healthy reef, this coral-eating starfish tends to feed on the fastest-growing species, allowing slower-growing corals to form colonies. On a vulnerable reef, starfish can pose a threat. A dense outbreak can strip a reef of 90% of its living coral tissue. Researchers monitor the populations of these venomous invertebrates in case of an outbreak. Fortunately for this reef, starfish numbers at Canyo Island are on the low end. But the results of the bleaching test are not as encouraging. "5 months ago, 5% of the reef at Canyo Island suffered from bleaching. Now as much as 70% of the coral is bleached. It's a devastating find. The likely death of such a vast amount of coral could affect habitats beyond Canyo Island. Coral reefs act as a barrier against currents and powerful waves. Without the reef, strong waves pound the coast and destabilize the fine sediment that allows mangroves to take root. Nearly 100% of Costa Rica's mangroves are located on its vulnerable west coast.
Cuando uno habla de ecosistemas marinos, tiene que tener en cuenta que todo está conectado, desde lo que está cerca de las costas o cerca de los ríos hasta los arrecifes y las zonas pelágicas que están mar adentro.
Mangroves, like all forests, store high amounts of carbon in their leaves and roots. When mangroves are destroyed, they release that carbon into the atmosphere, thickening the layer of greenhouse gas and making the earth warmer. The destruction of the reefs, and in turn the mangroves, would affect all ecosystems, both on land and in water. Researchers will return to this spot throughout the year to monitor the extent of coral bleaching. Only time and the resilience of these corals will reveal the true effects of rising temperatures. Costa Rica is a place to witness nature at work. From tropical fjords to underwater highways and submerged volcanoes, the Pacific coast of Costa Rica is a source of endless wonder and discovery.
Definitely one of the things that I can say about diving in Costa Rica, whether you're in Caño, whether you're in Catalinas, whether you're in Cocos Island, is that you get a moment of awe. you stop in time when you're under the water interacting with these creatures, when you're getting close to them face to face, when you're surrounded by either rays or schools of fish, or when you're face to face with a shark. That moment you stop and it's like your mind goes into a blank state.
While these oceanic islands support abundant wildlife, Costa Rica's coastal habitats provide critical nurseries for apex predators. After years of reckless abuse, these vital marine habitats were on the road to collapse. But the passionate work of marine researchers and shark defenders is bringing new hope for the future of our oceans.
Tenemos que luchar porque este océano se mantenga. Miles de turistas pagan miles de dólares por ir a la isla del Coco a ver los tiburones martillo adultos. Pero ¿qué pasa si no protegemos a los bebés que no están en la isla del Coco? No estamos haciendo que las poblaciones se conecten, no estamos haciendo que las poblaciones se mantengan. Y entonces realmente cada día tenemos menos tiburones en el agua, cada día tenemos más desequilibrio en los océanos.
We're gonna try to keep this resource for our future generations, because this does not belong to me, does not belong to the fishermen. It belongs to everybody, to every Costa Rican. It belongs to every foreigner that comes here to do tourism, and especially it belongs to the younger generations, because they have the same, if not more rights than me, to have their opportunity and see how beautiful the underwater world is.